The Clippers have decided to part ways with Chris Paul. I'm going to read out this quote by Lawrence Frank. "We are parting ways with Chris, and he will no longer be with the team," Frank said. "We will work with him on the next step of his career. Chris is a legendary Clipper who has had a historic career. I want to make one thing very clear. No one is blaming Chris for our underperformance. I accept responsibility for the record we have right now. There are a lot of reasons why we have struggled. We're grateful for the impact Chris has made on the franchise." I'm also going to read this brief excerpt from this article. "To move on from Paul, the Clippers would have to waive him and pay out his 3.6 million salary, agreed to a buyout or look to trade him, which they couldn't execute until December 15th. So they have until December 15th to either trade him or buy him out. So he's not officially waived yet, but he will be now that they're parting ways with him. And I have to say, I'm not really shocked by this move. To be honest, granted, you could say it's disrespectful since Chris Paul is a Clipper legend. You can make even the argument he's the greatest Clipper of all time, which isn't really saying much. Not to insult Chris's career, he's a great player, but just to be the GOAT of any franchise is something when you look at Chris compared to other franchise GOATs. So I had made a video like a week or two earlier saying that Chris Paul should retire. And ironically, the next day he announced his retirement after I made the video. But my argument was that he was washed, and you could see it in his stats. This year, he was averaging only 2.9 points per game on 32% overall from the field, 33 from three, and he was averaging 3.3 assists off the bench in only 14 minutes of playing time. Last year, he played over 28 minutes, averaged a little bit over 8 points, and had 7 assists per game. So he was clearly better last year than this year. There was a huge drop off. I know some people would argue, like, well, the Clippers are playing him less minutes than he was playing with the Spurs last year. Sure, you can make the argument, but it could also be that they're playing him less minutes because they don't think he's capable of helping them even more minutes. So that could be a sign he's washed. You got to look at it this way that any coach wants to win games. So if Coach Lue felt that Paul could help the Clippers win games, he would get more minutes. And maybe he's seen something that we haven't seen, that Chris is not as good as he once was, or even good enough to contribute to win. So it's apparent that Chris is washed up, and also I feel that the Clippers' terrible record of them being 5-16 played a huge role in this. That they're probably trying to find ways to win more games, obviously, and just factored in like they could get rid of Chris, open up a roster spot for a guy who could be halfway decent and contribute to them. So I think that factored in this calculated move. Now for Chris, I felt that he should have retired after last year. He had a great story with the Spurs, helping that team navigate and learn how to win, teaching the young players how to win games. I thought that was a great role for Chris, and he really enjoyed it. That he was pretty happy playing for them last year, and it was like a great story. I felt there was no more reason for him to play anymore, but I believe the reason he went to the Clippers was for a few reasons. Was he felt he was coming home to LA because that's where his family lives. Granted, I know he grew up in North Carolina, but his home is now LA. So I think that was a huge reason he wanted to play there. Also, him being the greatest Clipper of all time, there's that nostalgia there for him. I'm sure he thought he was going to get some farewell tour reception by being with the Clippers. That played a role. And then there was hopes that the Clippers could contend with a title. They had gotten Bradley Beal through a trade. They had kept James Harden. They still had Kawhi. And I think he just assumed that they were good enough to contend for a title, which obviously they weren't. Bradley Beal got hurt. Kawhi, like always, is MIA. He just doesn't care. He got engulfed in that scandal with receiving money underneath the table, as you know of. So it turned out to be a complete mess, and it backfired. So I'm sure Chris probably has regrets now about playing for the Clippers and signing with them. But this just shows the clown show the Clippers have had all year, and Chris was part of the show. So I think he's officially done. I don't see him playing another game in the NBA. I just don't. He's just very washed up. Who knows what he'll do next? Chris is a very clever guy. I'm sure he'll figure out something. Plus, I'm sure he saved up all his cash, so he's fine for the rest of his life. But yeah, I'm sure if he could do it again, he would not have signed with the Clippers. He would have retired and just called it quits and gone out in a graceful way. This is an example of why you can't stick around for too long. You need to leave the game while you're still in good shape so people have good memories of you. I think I think Chris overstayed his welcome. And just like his friend LeBron, he's now going to get embarrassed because LeBron's doing the same thing by overstaying his welcome. LeBron should take a lesson from this and retire, but he won't, knowing him. But like I said, this is an example why you get out when you still have some ability to still be a decent player versus going out as a scrub, which is very embarrassing. But I don't have anything else to say about this.